Hey everyone, how's it going? It's I, the real Randy Chavez. I'm coming at you today with, well, a little VeVe, but a lot of Pokemon. Everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi. Commenting, liking, and subscribing is a free way to help support the channel. Non-free ways are Patreon, smashing that super thanks button down below. My Pokemon journey started just as many others did. Happy Pokemon Day, by the way. It started in September of '98. One Saturday morning, a new show came on. And it was Pokemon, and it swept the nation. You guys know the story. I was lucky to be born at just the right time. I was lucky to have been adopted into what I think is likely the greatest country in the world, America, at least one of the greatest countries. And New English, it was just perfect, match made in heaven. What I didn't know was that several months prior to this, in May of '98, there was a parent-child tournament, duelist for the cards. And if you entered this tournament with a parent or somebody over the age of 18, what you got to do was you got to win X amount of battles, and if you did, they gave you a card. More on that later. I've put, at this time, probably about 30,000 plus hours, maybe even thousands of hours beyond that, in stuff with Pokemon. I had a full-fledged business, again, more on that in a bit, between the games, the anime, and again, not just the normal games, like the red, the blue. Like my blue version, I had like 1,800 hours on that. And the only reason I didn't have more was because Pokemon Gold came out like X amount. Like you had the red and the blue. I had the blue version first, I had the red, then I had the yellow, then I had the gold, the silver, the crystal, etc., all the way down. Love playing these games, love beating them. It's like you have to. It's a must. And today is Pokemon Day. It is the one license that I would give up anything for it to be on VeVe. And I'll tell you why. It's because, again, I've spent so many hours, probably by 2017, 2018, 20-something, 25-ish thousand hours, between the games, again, the anime, the music, just everything. I have Pokemon tattoos on me. And when I started buying the cards, obviously we all did that in the 90s, but the first edition PSA 10s, the holos and all that, I happened to be really lucky and have a big boy job. I was in my 20s and was making a decent amount of money. And I honestly first started buying them just because I loved them. Dabbled a bit in 2016, but it wasn't until 2018 when I had a liver issue. I drank a little too much, and I get out of a surgery, and I was like, okay, I never want this to happen again. I want to collect all the Pokemon cards that I loved when I was a kid, that I couldn't get when I was a kid because nobody has money when you're like 8. And I start collecting the first edition PSA 10s. I start going on, and I collected the stuff I did when I was younger, and then I found a Blaine's Charizard, and I was like, oh, this guy is a beautiful thing. In Pokemon Snap, my friend Ashley still has this game of mine, but in one of the levels, the fire level, it's like one of the last levels that you can get over there. You can knock a Charmeleon that's circling a volcano into the volcano with a Pester Ball or an apple. I don't think it matters which one, but you can knock them in there. Evolves into a Charizard. I got an awesome picture. We're doing like an epic flamethrower, Pokemon Snap. And I put it in a title, and I just put the title, I love you, because I did. And the Blaine's Charizard looked exactly like that photo. Match made in heaven. Wound up getting a bunch of those first edition PSA 10s. My friend Joe was like, bro, you got to stop with this. This is so much. At the time, they were like, I started buying them at like $300, then they were $600, and then I remember selling a bunch at like $4,000 and $6,000 to get this card called a Trophy Kangaskhan. Trophy Kangaskhan, remember I said you had that parent-child tournament, and if you won X amount of battles, they give you a card. Well, I had started this business in early 2020, about 3 weeks before the Rona hit, and every business was shut down. Put like 30-ish K into it, and I was like, oh God, now the business is shut down. This is not going to happen. This is not good. But the opposite happened. What happened was that everyone was getting those $1,200 checks, except for me, because apparently I made too much at the time. And they were buying Pokemon cards. People were very irresponsible with it. My stuff went through the roof. I had gone over and said, you know what? I'm going to get a trophy card. I already had a trophy Kangaskhan PSA 4. Spent like several thousand on it. And then I found a guy that had a PSA 10. 1 out of 11 in the world. The highest that it ever went for up until this time was 25, 30,000. Privately, a lot of these bigger deals do go on behind the scenes. It used to be PWCC, it used to be on eBay, and then a lot of that still happens, but a lot of the big stuff went on behind the scenes. And there was somebody that I knew that had declined a $60,000 offer. It's like, okay, so I know it's worth at least that. So me and the guy that had it, we agreed on 80,000. Now, in general, when I was buying these cards, everyone and their sister had said, "Hey, listen, you're finally making money, like you are." They'd call me crazy for years. When I was in the military, they're like, "Hey, you don't want to get out. The economy sucks." I get out and I decide to go to school. I don't like school, and I get a job at a bank. And then they're like, "What do you know about this high risk lending? You shouldn't leave school. You should stay in school." Didn't like it. Get a job with this bank, private bank, and then they did loans, and I was like, I'm going to open up my own business under their umbrella. And I was like, that's stupid. What do you know about this? Turns out I was really freaking good at it. Went from like less than $2,000 to my name to over $100,000 in 2.5 years. And when I started buying these Pokemon cards, people were like, hey, you're finally starting to make some money. You're wasting it on children's cardboard. This is stupid. Buying Tesla stock, like the guy's crazy. He's bipolar. His cars explode. Stupid. So what did I do when everyone called me stupid for spending $80,000 on this card? Of course I had to, right? I go and do it. I flip it for $279,000 the next year because I knew exactly what was going to happen. What people did is they got money. They bought into the cards that they loved when they were a kid, and then the money flew into trophy cards. And I see this happening with VeVe. Now, obviously, VeVe has many licenses from Marvel, Disney, Star Wars. They're even going to have one of my licenses over on VeVe Comics later this year. And that's all well and good. But Pokemon is the number one out there. Like there's close, there's again, you have Mickey Mouse, you have Luke Skywalker, you have Darth Vader. They have all of these incredible licenses. None of them hold the candle to Pokemon. That is the big boy. And for anyone that wants to get into the digital space, you want to go with VeVe. Well, Chavez, didn't Pokemon just launch their TCG Pocket app? And didn't that get like 10 million users? Yeah. They're not NFTs though. That'd be great if they were. And even if it was, NFTs of the cards are fantastic. It's beautiful. But there's an issue with that. You can get multiple packs per day. Like 4 packs per day, like for free. And what happens with that is that you can get these cards over and over again. I don't care how, where, or when. Sorry, I love that song. It's a Pokemon reference. And it's not like years ago where, okay, you have 1 mint run of first edition, and then in the first generation, it was 1 mint run of first edition, 1 mint run of Shadowless, and then the rest were unlimited. Now you don't even have first edition. It's just all unlimited. So the value of those cards, if they were on the blockchain, they'd be dwindling. It wouldn't be great. What VeVe does, and blockchain in general, you get to see how many of each one. And obviously, right now, like they have first appearance Spider-Man on the VeVe app. We know exactly how many there are. We know exactly how many were made. We can tell in each wallet how many of them that you have. And they've made many other Spider-Men on top of that. A dozen or so. It's like, well, Chavez, didn't you just say like you have this 1 mint run and that now you have others? Well, yes, they did make other types of Spider-Man, but you can't recreate that first appearance Spider-Man on the blockchain. That's always going to be the first appearance, doesn't matter how many others that they make. In that same breath, again, everyone that's trying to go and do the digital stuff, they are failing. Recur had the licenses of Nickelodeon, Hello Kitty, Star Trek. They had really good licenses. They raised $50 million. They raised a couple $1,000,000 at one point, and then they raised $50 million out of $350 million valuation. They had very poor capital allocation, and they failed. You have Hero that had the DC licenses. Some of the first appearances of DC characters on the blockchain were on Hero. Failed. I can go on and on about that. More recently, you had Dark Horse Digital. You have a bunch of these other companies like in comics that are just not. They're finding it really hard to have an audience. VeVe solves that problem. They solve that problem for comics. They solve it for collectibles. They solve it for space. They solve everything. Very disruptive company in a lucrative industry. What Pokemon might be feeling right now, and it's a third Pokemon, a third the Nintendo company, a third Game Freak, is that they don't want to fail. God knows they've had Pokemon games that have sucked in the past. But for what they want to do, breaking into that blockchain field, because everyone wants to do it, is that they want to make sure it's right. Now, what better, like they could try and build it themselves. But if they do that and it's a chance that they fail, like that is a big fail, and they don't want to do that. What they could do with VeVe is they could say, hey, let's license our stuff out to VeVe, make these high-end 3D digital collectibles that they're not just 2D JPEGs. When you think NFT, a lot of people think like, oh, I screenshot it, now it's mine. Okay, I understand that. A lot of people can do that of a Bored Ape, they can do that of a Pudgy Penguin, they can do that of all these different things. Again, the PFP stuff that they had for NFTs is one thing. But with VeVe, they're in 3D, you can view them in AR, you can play with them, a lot of them are animated. You can't do that with just 2D JPEGs. The stuff in 3D that you can have the stuff right next to you, really heckin' cool. But I digress. What Pokemon can do, and again, all of Nintendo if they want, and Game Freak because they own a third of them, is say, hey, VeVe, we'll license this out to you, and if you fail, we are going to 100% blame you. And if you win, you're going to make us some money. But there is no lose scenario. If VeVe does fail, Pokemon goes on and they say, that wasn't us that failed, that was VeVe that failed. They learn from their mistakes and then they build their own after. But because VeVe has an insane amount of users, an insane amount of money, just insane amount of hype, community, and just absolute amazing, intelligent people at the helm running the business, they're one of my favorite investments. And if they can go and get Pokemon, it will go in and it'll be the best of both worlds for both of them. And I want this to happen for two reasons. Three, but we'll go with two. One is that, and the first major one is I love Pokemon. And I will always love Pokemon. And I will never stop loving Pokemon. I will always go in and try to catch them all or collect them all. Big part of my life, I owe a big part of the success that I've had to Pokemon. Reason number two is that is going to make me a lot of money. Now, one, yes, if Pokemon signs with VeVe, the crypto associated with VeVe, the OMI token, will go absolutely insane and make a lot of money. But the other way I'll make money is and how Pokemon and VeVe will make money is, I would throw in 30 grand, 40 grand, like depending on when they do this. My other investments go up before VeVe and Pokemon, if they come to an agreement. I have no issue throwing in 100K into it. And I don't mean like, well, what do you mean when you say into it? Like if they say we're going to have Pokemon on VeVe and the first appearance of Pikachu on the blockchain or Charizard on the blockchain, Bulbasaur's my favorite. Moltres, Arcanine, Mew, like Sandshrew, like There was a trend on TikTok, that song I referenced before. I will fall in love with you. Like, every single Pokemon, and there was somebody that made a video around that song for every single Pokemon. Like, one person didn't do that, 1,200 times. There was one person in the entire world that did that for each Pokemon. Like, it was nuts. And the first appearance that they would have on the blockchain, it doesn't matter if it's a Caterpie, doesn't matter if it's an Abra, a Zubat, it would go insane. And people won't get it right away. There are still some people like, NFT, dirty word. Like, I remember when Cookie Monster first came out on VeVe. Yes, they have Sesame Street. There were people that had said, oh my God, Sesame Street has NFTs. Everything is worse now. Like, the world is worse. Like, I don't want to live anywhere else. Like, what? And there are going to be those people for quite a while just because they don't understand the technology. And eventually they will understand it. They don't even need to understand it, but they'll understand that everyone else loves it. They'll understand like what you can do with it, and then they won't care. Then they'll just want to be part of the in crowd. And by that point, I'll have gotten 1,000 Pikachus, again, depending on how many they mint. So yeah, I really hope that Pokemon says, hey, VeVe, we can do this. One, because you got to do it for the fans. When it was called into question whether Spider-Man could be in these Avengers, Marvel's movies, because Sony still has the movie rights. Tom Holland like called Kevin Feige like crying. He's like, can you do something? I really want to be in these movies. I really want to be in the MCU. And then the two companies got together and said, let's do it for the fans. Pokemon. Again, I owe a lot of my success to you. I owe a lot of who I am today because of you. I'm wearing a Gyarados shirt. This is just by accident. I didn't wear this for this video. I have Donkey Kong throwing a Pokeball. It's on my body impermeably and forever. Can you please go on VeVe and make me happy once again? I love you guys. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. I love you. Bye-bye. Meow, 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 meow.